and it includes all the highlights of who you are. Starting now. You do it whatever way you like. In whatever language you like. Whatever language you like. From whatever note you made, just briefly introduce yourself to your neighbor as if you were not you. In other words, as if you were the master or mistress of ceremonies who were introducing this amazing speaker who is about to present. Okay, groups of two, starting now. The story, or one of the many stories of how I came to my mapping, but this is going to be particularly the one that will lead you through what is known as metacognition. This is thinking about thinking. So we're going to think about the way we think. And the way we think determines nearly everything that we do, and therefore it's very important to learn to think about thinking well. Because if we don't think about thinking well, if we think in the wrong way, then serious things happen. Now, for example, what happens to your brain cells as you get older? Yeah, so I hear they deteriorate, they die. And what is interesting is that everybody around the world knows that. Every group that I've been with, I've fundamentally asked that, and everybody knows they die. And what is also interesting is the passion with which they say it. What happens to your brain cells as you get older? They die. And that's your brain cells. Now, how many of you have heard that as you get older, your brain cells deteriorate, drop off, or die? Okay, so it's globally known. how many brain cells a day, on average, does the average human brain lose? What's the estimate? Yeah, a million. It's normally between 100,000 and a million a day. How many of you have found that as you're getting older, your memories have begun to wobble a bit? Some of you have forgotten that they have. How many of you have found that your creativity, your ability to envision and fantasize is not quite as vivid and luscious as it was when you were a 5-year-old girl or boy? Okay, so, I mean, it's a pretty depressing outlook, isn't it? I want you to imagine another planet, and it's got a few billion people on it. Slightly different species from us, but they still have a brain with brain cells. And every single person on this planet knows that when they wake up in the morning and the birds are singing and the sun is shining and their true love is by their side, that there is another million brain cells on the pillow. How would they feel in general? Depressed. Depressed. You know that every day you're losing a million of your biocomputer chips. That's deeply, subconsciously depressing. And you run life like that. I mean, I've heard people saying things like, and this is, again, globally, they'll say, when they're having little chats, you know something? My memory's going. I used to have the most fantastic memory for numbers when I was a kid. Yesterday, someone gave me a phone number, gone. Just like that. Memory's going. Second person says, yeah, you know, I know exactly what you mean. When I was a kid, I had an incredible memory. Incredible memory. And the other day, got home from work, and I left my briefcase with everything I needed to do in it. And the third person says, I know exactly what you two are talking about. I used to have an astonishing memory for names and faces. I could remember everything, everybody. Went to a party the other night. I was introduced, one after the other, to 5 people. And I had forgotten every single one of them by the time the last one had been introduced. And they say, yeah, I know what you mean. And then they dodder off, arm in arm over shoulder, congratulating each other on the disintegration of their memories. And that's 3 30-year-olds I'm talking about. So we know that brain cells drop off. We know that memory declines. We know that creativity declines. And it's not nice. So to make it nice, we form little clubs of forgetters. My memory's going, yeah, I know what you mean. Feels nice if you're going down to have other people with whom you are thinking, because you all understand each other. And that is an attitude. And I am pleased to inform you that it's wrong. And it's wrong on many instances. Yes, you had a wonderful memory when you were a child. And yes, you were fabulous at forgetting when you were a child. You go into the classroom of 6-year-olds, these fabulous memorizers, and you ask the teacher, what has been left behind? I.e., what have those 6-year-old super memorizers forgotten? They have left books, jackets, pens, money, special little treasures, whatever it is. They've left them behind. And the only difference between the 6-year-old and the 56-year-old is that when the 6-year-old gets home and realizes that he's left his pocket money and his little wallet and his books at school, he doesn't collapse into a chair saying, "Oh my God, I'm 6 years old and my memory is going." Whereas the adult does. Now, if we have the incorrect attitudes and the incorrect tools, it's like an athlete. Gautam mentioned that I coach Olympic athletes. So we'll play the first of a number of imagination games, which help us think about thinking. So I want you to imagine that you are an Olympic athlete. You are muscularly strong. You are flexible. You are aerobically conditioned. And you get stuck in a swamp. And you're sinking. And you think, the way to get out of this, the way to escape, is to use my Olympian energy. What will happen to you? Well done. You will sink, and you will sink how? Faster. And therein, as Shakespeare said, lies the rub. Meaning, there is the essence of the dilemma. Because what it means, and this is deadly serious, is that the more intelligent you are, the more educated you are, the more optimistic you are, the more excited and passionate you are, the more focused and driven and directed you are, the more kind, wonderful, and loving a human being you are, the faster you go down the tubes. If you get the wrong formula. And so do your children. Because you put all that energy unwittingly into exactly the opposite of what you want. So it's not just a matter of knowing the right or not knowing the right. It's a matter of must know the right formula. Because if you don't, your intellectual wealth, your spiritual wealth, your human capital will disintegrate. So the whole of today is going to be spent finding the right formulae. What are the right formula for memory? What are the right formula for creative thinking? What are the right formula for thinking? So I'm going to tell you my story, which is a very good story of putting a lot of energy into the wrong focus and going down as a result of it. So we take you back to England, basically, where I was learning to take notes as a little boy in school. And I was told to take notes on lines, with words, with a pen. How many of you were taught the same way? It's global. It's obvious that that's what we've got to do, isn't it? You know, we think with words. We are a verbal animal. And we want to remember, so we take notes in the way we think. And I was told that I had to use a color. What color were you told you should take notes in? Yeah, blue or black. How many blue? Mostly. How many black? And you reflect the world averages. It's the same everywhere. It's the same in England, where I